Welcome to another out-of-spec reviews comparison test. Today I have brought together all of the smallest electric SUVs for sale in the North American market for a side-by-side driving review. I've also brought together three of my friends, all with varying backgrounds and varying interests in the cars. That way you don't just get my opinion on how everything drives. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the Kia Niro EV, the Volvo EX30, the Mini Countryman SE, and the Hyundai Kona electric on a drive, about a 150-mile loop where we're each going to drive each car for about 1 hour. You're going to get everyone's impression after their drive, and then the second half of the episode is where we will announce the winner of the test and just deliberate and talk in general about what we liked and didn't like about all of these cars. They all have the identical battery capacity, and they're all within the same price range, but they're totally different. So join us for a comparison test of all of these small, compact electric SUVs for sale right here in our market.
I got it. I'm not dumb.
You can turn it on?
Yeah. Got it. What's up? I was trying to figure out how to turn it on. I forgot you gotta turn this thing and...
Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, Eaton, Ionna, and InfyPower. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure, hardware and software, gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale up tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI. Also, Ionna, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Ionna is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave. And InfyPower, the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power. Hello and welcome to another out-of-spec reviews video, and welcome to a comparison drive of all of the really small electric SUVs for sale in the US market. We have all of them. We have the new Mini Countryman SE, the Volvo EX30, this twin performance ultra top spec. We've got the Kia Niro electric and the Hyundai Kona electric. What's funny is all of these cars are so close on paper. They're all in the mid to high $40,000 range. They're all the identical battery capacity of between 64 and 65 kilowatt hours usable, super close, and they really do compete against each other, but they are all totally different. And we're actually gonna be kicking off a review series of comparing these cars, not only in our range test, but also charging and 10% challenge and driver assistance. Really gonna benchmark all of these, but it all starts with driving. And I thought, let's not get too nerdy just to start this off. Let's just go for a drive with four of us. And I've got people with varying backgrounds and experience so that they can share their opinions of how these cars drive. And we're gonna go on a roughly 3 or 4 hour loop where we each get about an hour of drive time in each of these. We're gonna leave here from our hub in Fort Collins, Colorado, go into the mountains to Nederland for lunch. There's a great pizza place there. And then come back, we'll probably swing by the Tesla supercharger at Buc-ee's, do a little charging run, and then at the end, we're actually gonna score all of the cars so that you can see which ones we like the most and dislike the most. We are gonna really just be focusing on the driving experience in this video. So join us as we kick off our small electric SUV comparison testing with a nice drive in the mountains. Come to EV Fest on May 31st in Long Beach. Over 400 EVs from BMW, Porsche, VinFast, Lucid, Tesla, Rivian, and more. See EV conversions, modified stock models, and 30-plus vendors. There will be food trucks, raffle prizes, and a video game truck for kids. You don't want to miss it. I'm going to first introduce the cars and then I'll introduce the people, and everyone's going to give a few minutes summary of what they think about driving each. And then at the end, we'll come back here and ultimately give you a winner as to which is the best driving, and maybe even some other factors such as styling, which is our pick out of all four of these. Let's start up here with the most expensive car that we have. I mentioned all of these cars are under $50,000, except for this Countryman, the way it sits. This is 51 grand, a lot of money. And I have to say, all of these cars are a lot of money, and I feel like way too much money. And that is why I typically suggest to our viewers to lease an electric car, because you can pick up that Kia Niro from Fort Collins Kia, shout out to them for loaning us that one, for 99 bucks a month with $1,000 out of pocket on a lease. Don't spend the $47,000 that car costs. So we are comparing based off MSRP, but keep in mind when you, especially with electric cars, when you go and get one, you can lease them for pennies on the dollar, typically for what they would go for if you were to just pay, sticker price and write a check to the dealer. Mini Countryman SE, this is all-wheel drive, nice car. Again, just under 65 kilowatt hours usable. It's got a gorgeous interior. Let me show you this right over here, run on over. It's got a cool screen with a very feature-rich operating system there in the center. There's also a little head-up display that pops up. Nice materials, nice steering wheel. Really cool car, and I think it's the right size, but very expensive from an MSRP standpoint. And again, we'll have more comparisons. We're just going to be driving these today. And of course, I'll make sure you guys have all the stats on all the cars so that you know what we're dealing with here. So that's the Countryman. Then we've got the next most expensive one. This is $48,000, the Volvo EX30. And it's in moss yellow. Absolutely love it. Maybe you guys have seen this car on a few of our videos in the past. Really fun, very minimalist in the design, and the fastest car here. This is over 420 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. This thing truly is a pocket rocket in a straight line. But I'm going to be curious to see what everyone thinks about the one-pedal driving and the performance all-wheel drive settings. Just getting a sense of the suspension and braking as well, because the acceleration makes you think it's a race car, and then you drive it and it's actually super nice and comfortable and squishy, and I think a really cool blend. But then we're also going to be evaluating, as part of this drive today, driver assistance and sound system, and so I'm curious to see what everyone thinks about the EX30. Then we come over to this right here, the Kia Niro, loaned to us by Fort Collins Kia. Shout out to those guys for always supporting us. I called them last night when we had the idea to do this, and they said, no problem, take one of our Niros. And this is a fully spec'd Niro. I thought it was fair to have a wave trim instead of a wind trim, because we're going up against some of the nicer competition. And this car is $47,000 as it sits, which is a lot of money considering it's only 200 horsepower, charges at a maximum of 85 kilowatts stated. Maybe you'll get closer to 100, but it just seems certainly the oldest from a technological perspective. But keep in mind, the lease price is amazing on this. And also Hyundai and Kia know how to make cars drive well and drive predictably. So this still has a chance. It might be a really nice driver. And then we have the brand new Hyundai Kona. This has just been updated for this year. New styling, wider, longer, very similar to Niro actually, but it has the new CCNC operating system. It's identical drivetrain to the Niro. Again, every single one of these cars, but just over 64 kilowatt hour usable battery pack. Just front wheel drive in the Kona. And this is actually the cheapest car here as it sits. This is $42,000 and it's the limited trim. So it has almost everything. There's probably a couple options off of this thing, but it really does feel a bit like a value play. And we are going to factor in value as part of this comparison test that we're going to run today up to Netherlands and back. So those are the cars, and what I want to do is introduce you to the people that are going to be reviewing them. I'm going to be one of the drivers, and you're going to get my impression. But again, everyone has different viewpoints of cars, so I'm going to introduce you to everyone else. So actually, let's flip the camera around right here. I'll take this, thanks. And here you go.
Hello.
What's up, Alyssa?
Hi.
So come on over. You know what we're doing today?
Yeah, we're reviewing all these cars and getting pizza.
Yeah, we're going to get some pizza, absolutely. And I have a list in which order all of us are going to drive each car, and we're going to all have about 45 minutes to an hour with each one. Any expectations up front? What are you most looking forward to driving?
I'm most looking forward to seeing whether I like the Countryman or the Volvo the best. Right now, my gut instinct is kind of the Countryman because I like the personality of it. The Volvo's a little too boring for me.
It's a little sterile.
Yeah, that's kind of how I've been doing it. These two cars, they don't give me any interest, but with their lease deals, they're definitely good competitors within the market. I don't know about this car for lease deals because it's brand new, but yeah, that's pretty much my thought process.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. I do feel like we have the like Euro kind of funky design, lots of interesting tech and features and stuff going up against a more, you know, A to B type car, but still very well engineered with a ton of features and a ton of content for very reasonable prices over here. And I think, you know, our preference leans towards the Euro stuff, but Bob and Zach both have Hyundai Kia products, so they're very familiar with those cars.
Exactly.
And so I think I tried to get a real balanced portfolio here. And I do think, like, I drove the new Kona yesterday. This thing is awesome. Great sound system, really fun to drive. I really enjoyed this car.
Yeah, I remember when we drove this, like, beginning of out of spec days. This was one of our first cars we actually reviewed. So it'll be interesting to see how it's been upgraded. I never had any gripes about it. I think it's a very suitable car. It's just not anything that's going to be like, oh, wow, gotta buy that.
Certainly the Volvo and the Mini have some real fun
they have more personality.
Let's go meet Bob and Zach. Zach, what's up, brother?
What's up, man?
Glad you're back in a video.
I'm back.
So Zach is a long time out of specker, I think is the best way to say it.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the first videos we ever did together was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years ago, man.
With your Ioniq 5.
Yeah. And it now has 91,000 miles on it.
So you are in the Hyundai lifestyle.
I am. I'm a Hyundai boy.
Okay. Yeah. So that's why we brought you along.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Yeah. Love the new Kona. You know, I've driven a couple of these as loaner cars. It's the go-to loaner at the dealer.
Oh, really? This is what they give out?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. What's your impression of all the cars, what we're doing today? Do you have any expectations on what you're excited to drive or what you're excited to find out?
Well, these two I know pretty well, right? So I know how all the adaptive cruise works, the lane centering. I'm very familiar with that. I'm excited to drive the Volvo because you were telling me it's a rocket ship.
It is.
So that sounds cool, and it's really small. And then the Mini especially. I've never driven a Mini once in my life, any Mini.
Oh, well, this is really not the essence of Mini.
Yeah, this isn't the essence of Mini, but because I'm a bigger guy, I'm excited to drive one that'll fit a man of my stature.
Okay, love to see it. The Mini actually is the only one here with massaging seats, by the way.
Hey, I'll be using that. Yeah, so I'm excited about that and just getting out on the road and ripping them. But yeah, like this one, I'm excited about the refresh. Yep. Because I'm pretty familiar with that. This one I've driven a million times, I feel like. So I think this one will probably have I have the least expectations out of that
for
car.
The Niro.
Yeah, because I'm so familiar with it. I know what it does. So this one I'm excited about the update and the new software because I have the old software in my Ioniq, which is okay. And then the Volvo especially because I'm a Google guy as well. Yeah. You know, having the Google operating system.
And the Mini's Google as well. It's OS 9.
Yeah, I'm loving that. I'm excited to try that out.
Okay, very cool. Well, I think it's going to be an interesting comparison. To me, I would never imagine that these two cars and those two cars are so similar in price.
Yeah.
But they really are. I mean, the Kona's the cheapest, but the fact that this is 47 grand and this is 48 grand, and that can be 48 grand, but it's 51 as spec'd.
And I feel like that's a really high price for a Niro, especially not refreshed. Yeah. I feel like they should be giving those away right now.
Well, they do. 99 bucks a month, Fort Collins Nissan, you're good to go. And also we have to shout out the Hyundai dealer in Loveland, Crossroads.
Shout out to my dealer to get my service done.
Okay, they also loaned us this car here, and we're gonna get Bob on camera, who really helped hook us up over there. But yeah, should be great. Glad you're here. This will be a fun
I'm excited,
fun day.
man. It's gonna be a good
Bob,
run.
the electric principal, back in another video.
I am happy to be so.
So we did a video, and I think the viewers really enjoyed our difference of opinion.
Yeah.
Which is perfect because I'm much more in this like war against start button phase that I think it's silly cars have them. But I think you have a much more realistic view of what buyers are actually looking for when it comes to this segment of vehicle.
Thank you.
So that's why you're here.
Yeah, and you know what? That's the fun thing about these cars. These are all potential cars that somebody could purchase, you know, and Lord knows what you're actually going to get it at the end, but they're reasonably priced cars. And most of them are very efficient. And I sometimes think people focus too much on the big cars, like trucks and like my Ford that guzzles energy by the, by the second, right? Yeah. and these cars are so efficient and they're fun to drive. And You know, first car I ever drove was a Chevy Bolt, and I still love those cars. This is my kind of stuff.
A new refreshed Bolt would actually fit kind of perfectly in here. I thought maybe we should get an Equinox or one of those type things, but they're dimensionally larger than these cars. There's really no other vehicle in this class in our market. So you helped us in the connection with Crossroads Hyundai to get this.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. And a real big shout out to both our local Hyundai and Kia stores for supporting Out of Spec. We put this together yesterday afternoon. This was a last minute idea. And so thank you very much for helping with that.
Oh, we're glad to help.
So what car are you most excited to drive today?
I tell you what, I know these cars really well. And they're more utilitarian cars. That's how I would put any one of my customers in these that going to stay in town, drive around town, want good energy efficiency. But I'm really excited about the Volvo.
Yeah, let's run over to it really quick.
That's what I'm excited about, because this is a different class of car. It really is.
I put a poll on Twitter last night, asking our viewers between these, without seeing any of our videos or content upcoming, which would they want to purchase?
Yeah.
And I will give you the stats right now. 67% of our viewers said the EX30.
Oh yeah, I can see why.
The smallest car here. I mean, that's the smallest back seat, least amount of cargo space by half of these cars with the back seat up. And 67% of the people said this is the one they want.
Well, your viewers are into fun, and this is fun. I mean, it's over 400 horsepower, all-wheel drive. It gets amazing range. I can't believe it's got 400 horsepower. And it still has a 250-mile range. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, that's what the EPA says. We're going to find out tomorrow in the highway range test. Subscribe to Out of Spec Testing if you haven't. And what about this? This is kind of an enigma. No one really mentions this car or thinks about it.
Right, and this is what we have now. I mean, I drive a earlier generation electric Mini Cooper, which is a blast to drive.
The two-door version.
Yeah, I jump in that car all the time, even when I have other choices.
You actually brought it here.
It's fun to drive. But this is what we have now, because Mini's not going to import the good two-door. And so this is more of a little bit more of a family truckster. You got more room, you got more space. It's heavier, way heavier.
Yeah, it's the heaviest
I think that one's like 300 pounds heavier than the actual gas version of the older generation. This is a heavier car.
This is 4,300 pounds.
Yeah, 4,300 pounds, but it's also all-wheel drive, right?
Yes.
And so you've got those things, and in Colorado, people are going to love these things, and it's a BMW underneath all that. So the software is great. Everything is awesome in that car.
Totally agree. I actually think, from my perspective, I'm most excited about figuring out the Countryman. On paper, initially, I was like EX30 all day, but then I drove this car, and I was like, oh, this is really nice. But I'm curious if the weight is going to impact the driving dynamics and stuff. So with all that said, we're going to go for a drive. We're going to, basically the idea is we'll all give a 3 to 5 minute impression, closer to 2 to 3 minutes of each car after our drive with them. And then we'll be back in a few hours, and we'll basically pick a winner based off of a points system.
That sounds like fun.
It really does. This is a great way to spend a day. Let's go driving.
I'm a lucky guy.
Here you go, buddy.
They start at 46,000. This one's 51. And there's so much this car can do. Really, a ton of things.
Trip data.
Yep. So much in here. When you're driving it, you're probably not going to fool around with this too much, but you have your state of charge up here and your power on the left. But the Belgian production cars started a couple weeks ago. So the cars that are coming after this will be produced in Europe. We only get the top spec EX30s in the US. So what I mean by that is we only get the dual motor big battery. In other markets, there's a smaller LFP battery that's rear drive. All of these cars are NMC. This is a high nickel chemistry car. So to turn the car on, there's no start button. This is the only car here without a start button. The way to turn it on is just put it in gear, and then she wakes up. And since we're not going anywhere, I'll put it back into park there. The window switches are annoying. So they're down here in the center, and then you've got to hit the separate rear toggle, like
VW,
just like ID4. And unlike the ID4, you can't push and hold and control all of them with one toggle.
Okay.
So you really have to go back and forth.
Well, there's a plus for ID4.
Yep. Every time I get in the car, I click the car button, I click this driver alert, and then I turn that off.
Okay.
And it defaults on every time, which is annoying, but that's the best way to shut it off. In the Euro cars, you can program this hotkey to turn it off, but not in the US cars.
Okay.
Which is a little bit annoying.
Just software.
To get to all of your statistics, it's in car status, tells you battery health right there, which I think is a really nice touch. You can get a real cheap lease. Yeah, the Wave is the top spec.
Yeah.
So the Wind is base, Wave is top. We have the top spec of everything here. The Mini is more just styling stuff. This is really one of the most annoying things about this car, from my perspective, is this is either your temperature control or your volume knob.
Yeah, I hate that.
And you've always got to look to see which one you're at.
And look, it still has USB-A in 2025.
I know, isn't that crazy? There is a USB-C, thankfully.
That's a deal breaker, just so you know.
What you can do, there is a trick to this though. You can say it will always default to a certain menu. So you have to push and hold, and you can say always go to climate. And now, you know, even if you push it to adjust your volume or whatever, it will go back to the climate.
Oh, that's nice.
All right, we are getting ready to leave the hub, and Zach is taking the Hyundai first. You ready?
Yeah, man. Ready.
Okay, sounds good. Should be fun. We have a beautiful first leg of the drive heading up to the Estes Park Visitor Center. Ready?
All set.
Okay, well, I'll reset our trip computers when we leave here. Not that it's a scientific efficiency comparison, but we can observe maybe some differences in the cars. Alyssa, you good to go?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you excited about the Volvo? This is kind of the best driving leg.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you make sure you use that performance all-wheel drive if you're ready to rip.
Okay, yeah, I definitely will.
Okay, good stuff. And I'm not taking the e-Golf. I am taking the Mini, which I'm really curious to see if the weight affects the handling. Every drive we will have twisty roads and highway and everything, but this is going to be the fun mountain climb portion. So I'm excited about this. You guys join me in the Mini. Time to reset Sense Individual. So that button right there, reset, car on. Ooh, fires into life. So many fun noises. Into drive. I'm going to keep it in the core startup experience mode at the moment, and we are good to go. So off we go up to Estes Park to start with all of these cars. Hell yeah. Let's do it. Have arrived to our halfway point now, and here's Alyssa in the EX30 pulling up, and Bob in the Niro. Bob was ripping the Niro. That was awesome.
All right, so I'm at the Volvo, and I'll say I have everything set up now, and the most annoying part is you do really have to go through so many menus to be able to get to, like, for instance, just me fixing my mirrors and just a bunch of like little things. It's not just like a hotkey, or which you can hotkey some things, but I just find that kind of annoying. And I feel like with the older generation, a lot of these things would be almost impossible for a lot of people to get to and understand and remember, and because I can't even remember it. But currently just on the highway right now, and on the lane centering assist, whatever it might be called in this car, and it's doing a really great job. And I will update you guys more on the drive, but that is my first initial impression. So we've arrived at the first stop in Estes Park, and I got my drive up those twisty, fun roads, and let me tell you, this car is a fun one to drive. It's small, it's nimble, it gets in the corners, it's fast. It's really fast. And I really enjoyed driving that. I would say it's a great car for stuff like that. And then also on the highway, it was great as well. I used the driver assistance, like I said in the other clip, and yeah, it did great for straight roads and just for on the highway, and had absolutely no issues with it. And yeah, I think overall, like, the car is really great. For me, I was really annoyed by this infotainment system. It's just too busy. Too many things to click to get to different things, and I just feel like it's kind of a big distraction to drive it. Of course, you know, once you own a car and you live with it, it's definitely, you have everything set how you want it, so you don't really have to mess around with things. But yeah, I sum it up, I think it's a great car. I spent a lot of time in the back seat, and it is pretty tight back there. Not a lot of cargo space either, so it's definitely, you're giving up a lot of that for with driving or owning and driving this car. But I think it's a very simple design. It's very Volvo. Drives great, and that's my impression of this car. I think it's gonna be a pretty good contender.
We've been ripping up and down this canyon for the last 20 minutes here, and let me tell you, that 200 horsepower that this thing has, it's a dog in the canyon. I mean, it's quick, yes, but man, I am really struggling to keep up with Kyle in the Countryman or Alyssa in the Volvo. The car itself, stereo, great, awesome stereo. Bose speakers all the way around. It hits very good with the R&B. I primarily listen to country, and I think it sounds great. The highs are great. The lows are amazing. It's a very good stereo considering the price of this car. I believe this one's at like $43,000. This is the limited, and it has a 64 or so kilowatt hour battery. Not great charging, but we're not really talking about that. We're really just impressions of the car. Seats themselves. I'm a bigger guy. Let's get that on the table here. I'm 5'10", 265 pounds, give or take. And these seats are okay. I drive an Ioniq 5, by the way, and I think those seats are a bit bigger. Yeah, so the seats, they're okay. They're not the best. I do like the cooled seats. That's a very nice feature. The interior space in here is great. The new screens are amazing. Really, really large. I really like those over the Ioniq 5s. They're a little bit shorter on those. So I really like the tallness and the wideness of these. It's very nice. Like I said, this thing is a bit of a dog. Steering very loose coming into these canyons here. You know, I feel like it's not very responsive. It feels very fake, to be quite honest. Acceleration is okay. Regenerative braking, it's pretty strong. Seeing how this is a front wheel drive car, so you're only getting that front electric motor that's doing that regen for you, so it's not as strong as the Ioniq 5. I have it in full regen. I also have it in sport mode in case anyone's wondering as well. But overall impressions of the car, it's spacious. It's definitely larger than the previous outgoing model that got refreshed recently. And yeah, it's been a nice place to spend some time. As far as the self-driving features, the adaptive cruise and the lane centering, very good. You know, it's pretty much the same in all Hyundais. I don't see any difference between this and my car. This does not have highway drive assist 2, so was not able to perform lane changes. However, here in the canyon, in any of these sharp corners, it really definitely kicks out pretty quickly. So it definitely, doesn't really help you much here in the canyon. I like to ride with my arm, up here on the window. I don't know if y'all can see that right now, but up here on the window, I like to ride with my arm on it. And my elbow, I keep sliding off like this. It doesn't really, without me pushing my elbow into the window, it doesn't want to stay. So I find myself with my arm down here. It's not a big deal, but it's just definitely something to note. But yeah, as far as that, I think this is a great buy for the money. It's going to be hard to really beat this package when you really consider price into this competition that we're in, because at the end of the day, you want that good price point, and the Kona, really offers that. It does offer a lot of great value for the price of the car. It has great styling. It looks good. And yeah, it's been a fun little car to kind of rip around.
Let's start at the beginning of the drive. So the beginning of the drive, we jumped straight onto the highway, and I was really impressed with the noise of the car. It's no, i7 or something dead quiet, but it gives you this sense of great build quality, totally nice cabin noise environment, and then seriously amazing driver assistance. You set the speed and it just stays locked in the lane. You hit the turn signal and it takes the lane very nicely automatically. The head-up display is wonderful. I don't actually like the projection on the little screen. I prefer it to blast up in the windshield, but it gives me great information about the driver assistance system. I was really impressed with the on-highway mannerisms and overall technology to support my drive. I was able to crank up the tunes a little bit as well, and the sound system it feels a bit tight in my impression, where like it's a little bit too tinny on the high end. The bass doesn't feel like it's got enough air to move through, but it's still a pretty good system, this Harman Kardon. Certainly livable, but it's very similar to like other BMW HK systems or mini HK systems where they're like almost there, but we just need a little bit more. Then I threw it, up in the canyons, and actually, first of all, we did the stop and go over to the good twisty roads, and I drag raced Alyssa allegedly, and I was wide open throttle, and that EX30 just blew the doors off of me. I mean, watching the EX30 get up on its hind legs, lift the front end, and just whoop, was hilarious. That thing is seriously fast. And that's where I'm like, okay, this thing's 51 grand. It needs more power. It's certainly enough to be serviceable, and it's plenty to have fun on a back road, but it's not enough power to make you feel, like the acceleration gut punch that a lot of EVs have. The car doesn't feel stressed at all. It's like they could easily throw another 200 horsepower at this car and the chassis can handle it just fine. So we started on the mountain road, and I was like, okay, dialed it up into go-kart mode and turned off the DSC, and I'm like, let's go have some fun with this thing up in the hills. And the initial impression was pretty bad. The steering feel nothing was coming through. The car was wallowing around. The seating position isn't really set up for performance driving. And I was like, oh no, they've lost the mini-ness. And then I started pushing a little bit harder, getting on the throttle, coming out of corners, and it would bring in the front motor before it would push on the rear motor, and it almost sort of understeer, and there was quite a bit of torque steer, and I'm like, oh, this is all bad. And then I was like, well, let me hit a couple corners full send. And it went from bad to great. Very rarely do I drive a car that at like 5 6/10 feels a bit awkward and then comes alive the harder you push it. It started ripping on the rear motor. Cornering brake control was controlling the understeer and actually getting out of some corners, not with opposite lock, but with neutral steer on. And I was able to throw this thing into corners and get a little bit of rotation in. And I was like, whoa, I'm hucking around this 4,300 pound Mini and it's loving it. And the harder I went, the better it felt. And yeah, it's a lot of weight and you are driving it, sort of off throttle rotation-y, but even coming out of corners, rolling into the throttle, it would pull. And then if you'd go matted wide open, it would actually start pushing with the rear motor. And I was like, whoa, this is fun. However, I will say the steering is super uncommunicative. And my impression of the Mini actually went from like being, oh man, they kind of ruined it, to that was really a fun drive up the hill. Absolutely rocketed. I'm sure the other folks won't focus on performance as much as I did. I think it needs more power to justify the price, especially if the EX30 makes 120 more horsepower for less money. But other than that, wow, pretty cool here. So I really enjoy the drive. It's a very high quality experience. BMW knows how to tune a chassis, and that's my impression of the Mini on the initial drive. Very, not thrilled, but actually pretty impressed with the level of capability and the funness when you really push it super, super hard.
Hey, so this is Bob Flaherty, the Electric Principal, and I always tell myself every day I'm one of the luckiest people on earth, because today I am participating in a little test drive of 4 different cars with Kyle Connors and the Out of Spec crew. And any day I could spend hours driving different electric cars and giving impressions. That's just a great day. So the first car I'm in right now is a Kia Niro, which is a kissing cousin to the Kona. And this car is a little bit behind in the technology because the Kona came out later, and so it's got the latest, greatest software in it. But really, they have a lot in common. And, these are just little cars that do great in town. They don't necessarily charge the fastest, but these two cars are just a freaking blast to drive. They just are. Even at 200 horsepower, just a little over 200 horsepower, I really enjoy driving this car. And, you don't always need 400 horsepower to have a good time. I have just about finished my run in the Kia Niro. And, I'm driving this like I normally don't because I'm trying to keep up with Kyle Connors. But, and this is way beyond my normal driving speeds. But it's a lot of fun. And once again, every EV has a lot of torque, a lot of power. I mean, the brakes are mushy. It doesn't handle like a sports car. But this is an all-around car for a great second car for somebody because it's got plenty of zip. It's got a lot of cargo space when you drop those back seats down. I think the system where you're running through the infotainment system and the controls is fairly intuitive. And these cars get great miles per kilowatt. Love driving this car. It is what it is. It's only 200 horsepower, but that's still plenty. And I think this is a great practical car, particularly if someone's looking for a great deal. I know we're just talking list price, it's pretty high, but you're not going to pay that much. I think it's a great car. I really enjoy driving it, and those are my thoughts.
I think Zach got caught up in some traffic, but let's hear some final thoughts from Alyssa on the drive. How was it?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah?
It's a little snippy little car, that's for
It's
sure.
way faster than the Mini.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, want to try and keep up with you because,
Actually, in the corners, the Mini might be a bit better, but in the acceleration, this is fast.
Yeah. It's a fun little car.
Nice. And driver assistance impressions?
It was good.
Okay.
I liked it. Yeah.
Good to hear. Because it failed in the hogback.
I mean, I didn't try it for very long.
But you were also on straight roads, so totally different experience. So
Yeah.
it works pretty well on straight roads then.
Yeah. That's what it needs to do for highway.
I agree. Totally. Nice. Let's check in with Bob. But yeah, you were ripping the Volvo. That was awesome. That was a great drive, wasn't it? Well, look who's arrived.
Even in the Niro, it was fun.
Yeah. So how was the drive in the Niro, Bob?
It's really remarkable because you put that in sport mode and you could just scoot right along. It's a family truckster a little bit, but every electric car has so much torque. It's so much fun. Yeah, the brakes are mushy, the steering's soft. Still way more fun than almost any other gas car I could drive on a regular basis. Just a great little car.
Love to hear it. You were keeping up great too.
Yeah. Other than the fact that there's a button I have to push to go between the fan and the temperature and the sound, this car is such a nice little car. Especially when you can lease it so cheap. It's a fun car.
Yeah, for $99 a month, this thing, absolutely amazing. Let's check in with dad mode over here. You just cruising?
Oh, dude. I was trying so hard to keep up with y'all, and I was just like giving it all she had, and just nothing was there.
Really?
Yeah.
And you were in sport mode?
Sport mode, full blast. Like I was trying to keep up with the Niro, then some guy cut me off, and it was. And dude, the steering in this thing is so loose coming into the corners. It's not responsive at all.
Okay.
So it's just like a video game with no force feedback.
Interesting.
So it's just like I was coming into the corners, just squealing tires, and
What about on the highway? What was your impression just cruising at daily mode?
Beautiful. Yeah, it's a great cruiser on the highway.
Yeah.
Assist is great. Doesn't have highway drive 2, which is fine. Whatever. No lane change. But other than that, yeah. I mean, it's a good car for the money. 43 grand. Like, I like that. And the sunroof's bigger. It's nicer than the previous outgoing model. It's bigger. The seats, it's probably the nicest one of the day, but bigger guy, slightly approved.
Yeah, I would say the mini seats were just a bit narrow on the bottom for me.
Yeah, I'll be bolstering on those things. I'll be sticking into
it. Nice. Well, I think we'll all swap cars and then we'll go over to Netherlands. Doing a quick driver swap. Bob's going to be in the Mini. I'm taking the Volvo. Zach is going to the Kia and Alyssa's in the Hyundai. What's funny is, Zach, you and Bob in the two Koreans got 3 miles per kilowatt hour. 3.1 in this.
Hammering.
I got 2.4. I was ripping it, but I got 2 motors to burn juice. You only got 1.
I know in like my Ioniq 5, I've done that drive a lot, and it's like 2.2, 2.3, doing the exact same thing. My doctor's actually up here.
These are these are super efficient. Sorry about that, Bob.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, that was fun, wasn't it? Now you're going to be in a much more powerful one. I'm curious to see what the efficiency of the Volvo was coming up here, because Alyssa was sending it in this. So let's take a look. Come over to here, settings. Oh no, car status, trip. 383 watt hour per mile. So actually more efficient than the Mini. And this has even more power. Nice. All right, good to rock and roll?
Yeah, I just got to put in the address here and then we'll go.
Should be a beautiful drive to Netherlands. All right, Zach, you all set up in the Niro?
Yeah, USB-A, baby.
USB-A, that's right. Amazing, amazing. Well, Bob's a Mini owner, so he should know kind of how these things work. Let's check in with him over here and see how he's doing. You all set up?
I'm just getting there, just putting the phone in, and otherwise I'm set to go.
Very cool. The interior of this is just so
I
cool.
love it. And I drove the 2-door version of this S version of the latest model, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just I'm anxious to drive this one because I haven't driven the big version of this car yet. So
yeah, it needs go-kart mode in the corners. So crank it up and have some fun. All right, I'll see you in Netherlands. What is it?
Dude, look at this. Look how big this piano black panel is. It's as big as my hand.
Oh my gosh, what the heck? Dude.
That's huge. Look at that. And I have big hands.
And that's just straight piano
that's
black.
all piano black. That whole thing from here all the way down.
And now it's Zach's fingerprints. Should be a beautiful drive, about an hour. And let's rock and roll. 57%. I'm going to keep this in the Volvo for now with the 1 pedal drive on, performance all-wheel drive off. Let's rock and roll.
Loudest motors for windshield wipers I've ever heard. They're
Really?
obnoxious. Yeah.
Oh, so the wiper performance of this isn't good then. Okay. Andreas, thanks for getting some shots for us.
Beautiful t-shirt weather here in Colorado.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the other guys are filming their final impressions in here. I think we're going to get some lunch.
Alright guys, it's me, Alyssa, in the Kona, and we're nearing the end of the drive. Absolutely gorgeous drive. It actually started snowing, which is really cool too. And that noise, I don't know if you guys can hear it, pick it up, is the windshield wipers, and they're driving me absolutely bonkers. But in terms of the driving, it is a very normal car. It is not gonna offend anybody. It gave me a little warning saying, oh hey, it might be icy and snowy outside. Drive accordingly. And I will say that yeah, this car has all the buttons in the world that you'll need, and it's very intuitive. You know what you're getting into. You can easily just jump in this car. It's a good rental car in terms of just not knowing anything about it, jumping into it, and
being able to do whatever you want in terms of, you know, air conditioning, your mirrors, whatever it might be. There are rear vents, which is great. That is a huge plus for me, and it just feels overall a lot roomier than the Volvo. There seems to be a bit more space. The sound system is actually pretty good. It gives a lot of, it's got a lot of bass, and other than that, it's just really slow, which, I mean, for an electric car, it's, you know, still slow. But if I were to get this as a rental car, or, you know, just whatever it might be, it's not going to offend you. The infotainment is fine. I've been using Apple CarPlay this whole time, and not really any issues. I haven't really played around with the software too much, so I'm not going to go too deep into that at all. But yeah, like I said, doesn't offend me. And I think it's very easy to drive. It's definitely not a sporty vehicle, so just throw that out the window. But interior wise, like, the touch features are pretty nice. Just kind of, you know, cheap looking as you would expect in a Hyundai. I mean, I don't really expect much out of these cars, but I mean, you've got heated seats, you got cooled seats, you got heated steering wheel, and cooled and ventilated seats on both sides here. No massaging seats. I think the only car that has it is the driver's seat of the Countryman, sorry. And so yeah, that is my wrap-up synopsis of the new Kona, and I like it. I see some ambient lighting kind of coming in, so, you know, there's nice little touches. It's not a bad car. I don't think anybody would be unhappy owning it if you're not really a car enthusiast. So it's just fine.
Hello and welcome to Zach's take on the Kia Niro EV. This is a front-wheel drive car, and it's on the same platform as the Hyundai, the Kona that I just drove. And man, how much nicer is the Kona? It's a lot nicer. I know this hasn't been refreshed yet, but the Kona just seems a lot more nicer, which it used to be the other way around, right? Kia used to be always nicer than Hyundai. You know, I know it's the same brand basically, with a slight, you know, different steering wheel, and, you know, different things about that. But the new Kona just seemed a lot nicer. So we'll start with like the big differences, stuff I just don't really like. Sunroof, it's really small, right? You know, when I go to open this thing, hopefully we don't get too much road noise. Like, look at that. Like, that's not very big. Okay, the Hyundai had like a real nice all glass roof, just on the sunroof part, but it was very large when it opened up, and it didn't have this little old school power folding. The Hyundai had a nice button that you push, and it, you know, the sun cover basically goes over it, which is really nice. Seats in this one, about the same. It's not bad. It's not great. They're soft to the touch, a little comfortable, not too comfortable. Plenty of legroom for me as a bigger guy. I'm 5'10", 265 pounds. I fit pretty well in this car. Good driving position. This steering wheel feels a little cheap in my opinion, kind of plasticky for, you know, a fully loaded car. I feel like that would be nice to have. The seats themselves, the air conditioned seats, great. The Harman Kardon stereo is okay, not nearly as good as the Bose and the Hyundai. I really hate you can't see this, but there's a button you got to push to change the controls for AC and radio controls. I hate that. I'm so glad my Hyundai at home doesn't have that. And the screen size in this, I think Kyle said it a little bit ago, that there's a lot of wasted real estate up here in the infotainment. The software is the same as my 2022 Ioniq 5s, so it's old. It's an old software operating system. It's not super responsive. Stuff is kind of buried. The heads-up display, sure, it's nice to have, but honestly, I'd probably turn it off. It's kind of, it's just old looking, to be quite honest. The UI, the projection, all of that looks a little old. Like I said, I have a strong feeling this is going to be my least favorite car. I really don't like the piano black. It's everywhere. It's here on the center console. It's on the dashboard. It's on the door card. It is absolutely everywhere. Yes, this is a brand new car. Yes, it looks great for right now. Give that 10,000 miles, 2 kids crawling around all over this thing. It's going to look terrible.
You join me in the EX30 now on a super fun road for this car. I just can't get over the power. You put your foot down and just rips. And what's fun to accentuate the power is how soft and squishy it is as well. So like you get on the power and the nose shoots up in the air, and dynamically when you really start pushing this car, which is not, I don't know, with 420 horsepower, it's worth talking about. I've got this thing dialed up, ESC off, performance all-wheel drive on. This makes a lot more power at high state of charge than at lower state of charge, so it's really affected by that. The cornering is squishy. Like you get into a corner and it kind of leans over, you get on the brakes, the body's doing a bunch of stuff. However, it's all good stuff. Like there's motion, but it's all controlled body motion, and it's soft, and it's not super understeery, and the rear motor does feel like it's working pretty hard. And so like up here in the canyons, wow, absolute smile fest in the EX30. Even though it's soft and light and sort of dainty feeling, if that's a right word, I can drive this with just my fingertips. It's quite responsive and light. It drives way lighter than the 4,000 pounds suggests on the tin. There are some bad though. The first is the one pedal drive calibration is terrible in this. Performance all-wheel drive shuts off regen. That's when I want more regen. And I think they're worried about regen drag control and maybe locking a wheel, and not, from a safety standpoint, performance, they're like, you're going to be on the limit. Just hit the brake pedal when you want to slow down. Thankfully, even with ESC off in performance all-wheel drive, when you hit the brake pedal, it does blend in more regen, which is really wonderful. And so you do get regen, just not off throttle. Now, when you drive it around normally, it's quite, I don't want to say lazy or delayed, because that's not the case. It's still effective and quick. But in order to get it to really move with performance all-wheel drive off, you floor it, the rear motor works hard, then it's got to clutch connect the front motor. So it's got to rev match, close the clutches, and then apply positive torque. And it's such a smooth connection, but they mask that smooth connection just by slowing it down. So it really ramps in power slowly. I think if you're on any fun road, you turn on performance all-wheel drive. Otherwise, you're fine unless you're on slippery surface. And I think, just gives you incentive to keep your foot into it while it finally figures itself out and then gives you all the power. The one pedal driving though is too weak, even when you're just using it day by day. And I've heard Volvo is going to update their one pedal drive to be stronger through an over-the-air software update, which I should say most of these cars support, but it really seems like Volvo's actually doing some significant over-the-air software updates, whereas the other cars, all of the other cars, still feel maybe a little bit behind in that regard in terms of adding features. They're more bug fixes and individual fixes. Volvo is shipping some big software updates to this car, which I really appreciate. And I think the hardware is good here, and the software has gotten way better than the first time I drove the EX30 a year ago. So much more stable. Everything feels a lot more robust. But in general, this car is just minimalist. It's got a pretty good sound system, a little bit richer than the Mini's sound system, although it does fall off at high volume. And I just enjoy driving the EX30. There's something so nice about getting in, hitting drive, off you go. Phone is a key, which most of these cars support except Niro, but I love the tech. I think I really do like a minimalist interior, and it's not going to work for a lot of people because you do have to learn this software, and it does take like an hour of just poking around to really figure it out. But I just love how nice and simple and premium, and premium but not pretentious. That's always been the Volvo thing. That's what it is here. And aside from the window switches having those individual buttons and then have a rear switch to control the rear, I love this interior. Love the design. Love the performance. And getting out of the Countryman and into this, I thought I was going to like this less, but switching straight from the Countryman into the Volvo, I'm actually, dare I say, this is more my kind of car. This is the car I assimilate more with personally. It's got all the power, it's a little bit soft, but upgrades exist, and I just think it's really cool. It's a really cool car.
So I've been driving for the last 20 minutes the Mini Cooper, kind of the wagon version, 4-door, and I love how comfortable Minis are. It's one of my favorite things about them. I've owned two of them already. I've owned a 23 and a 24 electric. They're super comfortable. The new materials they put in this car are wonderful. I love the recycled feeling along the dashboard. The screen is crystal clear, sharp, round, and you know it's only got one screen, but in this version of the car they have a really nice little heads-up display, and more importantly, that heads-up display works even when you have sunglasses on. Does this handle like a two-door electric Mini S? Nope, it doesn't. It doesn't handle quite as well. It's a much heavier car, but it's a fun car to drive. I've enjoyed it. It's touchier than my car. I mean, I'm in sport mode, but or go-kart mode. But you know, you hit that pedal and it accelerates very quickly, and the transition isn't always smooth for me. And you know, since it's a heavier car, it's just not going to take the corners like a classic Mini. But I tell you what, overall, I have a very good impression of this car. The stereo is outstanding. You know, I played some music that comes off my playlist for basically movie themes. And Breaking the Sound Barrier by Bill Conti sounds great on this stereo. So I really like it. I like the controls. They're really simple on the interior for the heating and cooling system, especially the vents. Old-fashioned knobs, and you can turn it very slick, very solid feeling car. So I rate this car once again very high in terms of a good car. If you need a four-door all-wheel drive car, this is a great car. It can't get around the physics of that it's a bigger car than the two-door, but it's a great little car. And I tried driving it. I couldn't drive as fast in this car because we ran into a little snow squall up in the mountains here, and we had a lot more traffic, and Kyle took it a lot easier going through this little passage. But it's just a nice car. You'll enjoy it. You need to drive one if you haven't driven one, just to see the big screen alone in the middle.
I got it. I'm not dumb.
You can turn it on?
Yeah. Got it.
What's up?
I know, I was trying to figure out how to turn it on. I forgot you gotta turn this thing, and
Yeah. So then you've got, your drive modes here. We are now off to Lions. We actually have to skip lunch. Zach's in a little bit of a hurry. We're fine on time, but no time for a long lunch. So we are off to Lions. I'm taking the Kona, and already I see what Alyssa's talking about with those loud wipers. We have just terrible weather this leg, but we're finally cruising, got out of Boulder traffic, and it's windy and rainy, and good time to test cars actually. We're in a basic crazy storm, so we're just swapping real quick. Everyone's running around, and then we're gonna get back in the cars. I'm taking the Niro, Zach's hopping in the spicy meatball, and let's go to Buc-ee's where we're gonna charge everything.
All right, so it's my time in the Kia Niro has ended, and might I say it is a very boring car. Very uncomfortable. I've actually found these seats very uncomfortable. There's not enough lumbar support. Driving wise, it just drives like a normal car. I didn't try out any of the lane assist because it's pouring down rain, so I kept control of the wheel for that. And infotainment wise, it's, you know, it's laggy. It's not where it should be. It's just pretty old school. As everybody probably has mentioned, this volume knob versus noise volume versus climate knob. Changing of up front here is pretty annoying, and but yeah, it's just a pretty straightforward car. We've spent a lot of time with them. There's nothing bad about them. It still tells you when the 12 volts charging, which is, you know, just very important information. And yeah, overall, I think it's got pretty ample space. It does have, what is this? It does have rear vents, which is a huge plus for me. And is this an outlet here? It seems to be something. Max, yeah. An outlet of some sort back there. But yeah, I think overall the car is fine, but for the money, if you can get the Volvo or the Countryman, I mean, that just knocks these out of the park. I mean, I know charging for both this and the Kona is not great either. We're going to be doing that next, so we're going to be charging all the cars, so we can speak a little bit more on that too. So, I mean, I know the lease deals are really great on these things, but we're comparing them with the price tag that they are, and for the price tag, this was not a top contender. Wouldn't be my top choice. But yeah, that's pretty much to just wrap that up, and our next stop is to go to Buc-ee's, and I will be in the I'll be in the Mini, and yeah, so we'll see how that does and drives and how I feel on that. It still has a USB port here, which is great. I mean, just, I don't know, get with the times, upgrades, do better things. Lots of buttons, so much piano black, which I loathe as well. So yeah, this is dropping pretty low. I won't tell you how low it drops if it's my least favorite quite yet. I'll save that for the end, but that is all I have for the Kia Niro.
I know Kyle said at the beginning that this is the heaviest car, and yes, he is absolutely right. Ripping it through these canyons, it feels planted, but you can feel the weight quite a bit. The regen is not that great. I have it in full regen, max B mode. It also has this really annoying thing that beeps at you for everything. Like if you're going a little bit over the speed limit, like a couple miles an hour, beeping. If you get outside your lane a little bit, totally understand that, it's beeping. You know, I just feel like I'm getting beeped like all the time. And another thing I don't like at all is this heads-up display. You can't see it, but it's like this glass that it reflects onto. Just put a screen up there. Android Auto looks kind of weird in a square in the middle of a circle, but other than that, it's really cool. It has like a selfie mode with a camera, like to take pictures of you and your friends in the car. It has some really cool features, and the software is flawless. It's when you change it to the drive modes, it gives you a little bit of fun sounds and stuff like that. I think that's wonderful. I'm a big time fan of the massaging seats. I fit better in these, I feel like. Not sure why. Kyle said that these would be a bit smaller than the Kia or the Kona or the Kia or the Hyundai, but I think they're just fine. I don't know, it just feels a little clunky to me. Not as smooth as the Kia or the Hyundai as far as like the drive line is concerned. But overall, I think it's a great pick. If you're a Mini Cooper fan, this is the one to get, right? It's big, got plenty of room. You know, you still got all the cool stuff of the Mini Cooper life. You know, it's not as small as, you know, traditional Mini Coopers, but you know, I think this is a very nice car. The backup cameras, all the cameras are very high quality. I don't know. It just seems like it's just trying too hard, if that makes sense. And it just, you know, it is peppy. If I was a Mini Cooper person, this would be a great one to buy because it's very large in here. Steering wheel feels great. Good material on the steering wheel. The leather feels very nice. It is good material on the leather. I just don't like this other material they have in here very much. But yeah, other than that, it's a fine car.
Well, I just parked up the Hyundai Kona after driving it down, honestly, through terrible weather and stuck in traffic. I am kind of surprised. This is a great car to drive. The seat is amazing, incredibly comfortable. The steering, it's the best steering wheel out of all of them. So like in terms of seating position, I feel like this and EX30 are right on par, like really good. Countryman's awkward, the Niro's awkward. This feels good. I totally see what Alyssa's saying about the loud wipers. That's funny. And, you know, for being front wheel drive, Zach was saying earlier that it was really slow going up the hill. Well, at least on the downhill, it felt spicy enough for me. I mean, 200 horsepower isn't slow. I was pretty impressed with the immediate power, and it feels good. It's spinning the tires a little bit. That's always a Kona thing in the wet. But I thought the traction control was great. The one pedal driving, it has really strong regen in I-pedal, which is wonderful because it's front wheel drive. You can recapture so much more of that energy going downhill. And the efficiency so far that I'm looking at, round trip after going up in the mountains, getting thrashed up there and then coming down here, 4 miles per kilowatt hour, almost 3.9. Amazing. So I've always been astonished by the Kona efficiency, and that even with the newer, larger one here seems to hold true considering how we're driving it. And it's 40 degrees and it was snowing up in the hills. It like went from super hot and baking to super cold. This is really interesting. Heated seats are great. Heated steering wheel's great. This is the best sound system out of all of them by far. Like the Countryman's pretty good. The EX30's pretty good. When you have the windows up, you get like this surround vibe. When you put the windows down, the sound bar can't bounce the sound off the windows. This, whatever Bose system they put in this Kona, rips. This has got a great bass, great highs. Really like the sound system in this car. No complaints whatsoever. And yeah, I've been very impressed overall with this car's considering I kind of came into it thinking, it's a little bit more old school. Kona to me just feels a little bit more down market. It holds its own pretty well. Now it certainly doesn't have the all-wheel drive stability of the Volvo or the Mini, but considering it's front wheel drive and, it's got a lot of features, a lot of tech, it's good. I have a couple issues with the gauge cluster. For me, the steering wheel blocks the speedometer and I can't figure out how to get a digital speedometer on here. I think there is no way. It would be nice if it had a head-up display. I think it's an option. That's one thing it's really missing. But consider me pretty pleasantly surprised with this car. I'm really enjoyed the Kona. I thought it was great. I thought the suspension was nice. It's a little loud on the, it's a loud experience compared to the others, but it's also significantly less expensive than the others. This is low $40,000 versus high $40,000 for all the other cars. I feel like you definitely feel the money is not here in this, but you're also not spending it. And it's got a nice glass roof, or this large-ish oversized sunroof, not a full glass roof. Wow. Pretty impressed.
Okay, so I have the pleasure right now of driving in the Volvo, and there's a lot of things I like about this car besides 400 horsepower. It really is quick. Now today's drive, it was a little difficult because it's raining when I had my shift here and actually snowing. But the car handles well, a little soft, of course, more for not really a true sports car type of feel. But it's very comfortable. Love the seats, they're cloth, but they feel good. Love the adjustable seats. The other thing I like are the door handles. They're really kind of unique on a car. We put your whole hand through it and pull on it to open it. It's super nice. The car is supposed to be the smallest of the four, but you don't get that impression when you're sitting in the front seat driving it. It feels really open and spacious. The roof is really nice, a large glass roof. There's no cloth that you can put over it, but it's still very nice. The instrumentation reminds me very much of a Tesla. A little smaller screen, but there's a lot of information on it. And Apple CarPlay works great on this thing, unlike the Tesla. So, to me, it's a thumbs up in regard to that. And so it's been a pleasure to drive it. It's interesting that when you're an all-wheel drive, it doesn't allow you to have any kind of regenerative braking, which is a little strange. But it's sort of like German cars. The regenerative braking is pretty light on these cars. But overall, I love this car. I would not hesitate to buy one. I've really enjoyed driving it. And I could see myself owning one of these sometime. Just one more add to that. And the other thing I really enjoy about the Volvo is the stereo is great. Really good sound. It's a Harman Kardon. It sounds way better than my Mini's stereo does, which is also a Harman Kardon. And to be honest, it reminds me of the Bang & Olufsen I have in my Ford F-150, which has got a really good sound system. So I'm very pleased with the sound system.
I feel like the Volvo and the Mini are the two I kind of have to explain the most. So how are you feeling it in here?
Not bad, just charming. It's weird, for sure. Like,
It's a little different, isn't it?
yeah, definitely.
So I'll show you that all-wheel drive setting because that makes a huge difference with the driving. So you've got to click the car and then settings and then driving. So this is where you get all your driving settings. And this is where you have one pedal drive, performance, all-wheel drive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that disables one pedal drive, just so you know. So if you like regen, you can't have performance and regen.
God forbid.
I know. So Bob said he's going to buy this thing.
Really?
Yeah, he loved it.
Oh, man. I wouldn't buy the Mini Cooper.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you not like?
I don't know, man. Like, that material in there was so annoying.
Really?
Like, that cloth material on the doors and everything. It was real rough to the touch.
Yeah.
It's not very pleasant.
It's supposed to be texturized and premium.
Yeah, it didn't feel
Didn't
premium.
work for you.
No, and then, like, trying to figure out the windshield wipers, when you turn them on, there's no, like, anything in the screen's going to tell you what level of windshield wiper you're in.
Yeah.
It's all by touch, like old school windshield wipers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And this one, you just twist the left knob for wipers, and then it pops up here where you are.
It tells you. How lovely is that? In the Mini, it didn't tell you where you were in the, on the windshield wipers. So like coming over here, I was trying to figure it out, and then getting the rear one to go, that was a whole nother story.
Okay, love it. That's something like if you own the car, you'd probably have figured out.
And the seats were the least fat guy friendly seats I've ever sat.
I totally agree.
I was like, my left leg was sitting on the side of the seat, like hanging off almost.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
with you on that.
These are way nicer.
This is a comfy car.
Yeah, this is way more comfortable. Yeah,
Okay.
and my back hurts from the Mini. I don't know what
Really?
that's about. Yeah,
and
lower
Alyssa just
back.
jumped in and said the Kona or the Niro killed her back, and she's glad to be in the Mini seats. So it's very personal, of course. But that it is good. That's why we have multiple people testing this stuff.
Depends how wide you are sitting in them, I think.
So Mini is not wide guy friendly.
Yeah, Mini's not wide guy friendly.
All right, well, off to Buc-ee's real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Get a little snack, a little charge, and then we're back to the hub. I am off now in the Niro. Things are beeping at me. Blind spot warning. Some good safety tech. This is just way too small of a screen in my impression. We'll get into that. Alyssa's ripping out in the Countryman. I'm in to drive. Let's go. Off to Buc-ee's. And yeah, I think we're just gonna rip it at full throttle, spinning them front tires. Let's go. Traction control. Full rip. I have plugged in the Niro to the Tesla supercharger. By the way, Kia, Volvo, everyone has supercharger access. That's here, I think. Yep. Let's see what happens. I'm curious to see how fast the old Kia will get. This is my first time really charging the updated Kona Niros. We'll have full dedicated charging tests on all of these cars on the out of spec testing channel, but we're just observing, arriving here at 43%. What the heck we're gonna see in terms of charging speed. Looks like 40 kilowatts. Really? That's everything? Oh my God, that's terrible. So what state of charge did the Volvo make it here with?
35.
35. I was 43% in the Niro.
Really?
Yeah, again, they all have the same battery. But
the Niros and the Hyundais, I think, are way more efficient.
Way more efficient, also a lot less power. This can drain it. What do you think of this thing? It's quick.
No, it's quick. I liked a lot about it. I didn't like the driver assistance. It kept beeping at me constantly.
Yeah, so that was that setting that I showed you earlier. If you click the car in the bottom right, and then turn off driver alert. Yeah,
okay.
so try that on the way back up to the hub.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm going to plug it in and see what this gets.
Yeah, do you have an adapter for it?
Yeah, they're Magic Docks. Everyone can charge
it's Magic Dock. I'm an idiot.
Yeah. Dude,
All right,
you're getting almost full power.
almost.
Yeah, you're right up there. And we didn't precondition here, did it?
I mean, we were hitting it pretty hard.
Yeah, but dude, I was ripping the Niro. You were behind me. Did you see my wheel spin pulling out?
Yeah. I came right behind you. I was like, I don't know. And,
dude, it was like over 100-mile-an-hour wheel spin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was ripping.
The Niro was only doing 45 kilowatts.
Oh, that's that Niro life for you.
Dude, this thing's not great, but
No, it's already stepped down. It hit like 140, like right when you plugged it in, and then now it's. Is this plug and charge?
No, I activated it in the app.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, well that's cool. That was just good for us to see. This is normal Volvo curve, a little bit below, probably due to temperature, but not far off.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna unplug you. You can head back up to the hub. The Countryman is the only one out of these cars that you gotta park funky at superchargers. We're not blocking one, but in order to charge, we are blocking ADA space though. Cool. Got it activated there.
Work on. I don't have great
Sweet.
cell service.
Bob says he can't get the charge port door open on the Kona.
2C, did you say?
2C. Oh, here we go. Ripping. What do you think it'll get to, Alyssa? 27%.
Uh-huh.
This was by far the least efficient.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I feel like people tried to rip on this one and the Volvo as much as possible.
I think the Volvo was like 37%.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we're right up to full power though, so it didn't cold gate that much. So I mean, this is kind of an interesting test to see how much flexibility the cars have in terms of battery temperature.
Right.
But you're right up to almost full power. We'll do all the charging tests later, but that's what I was curious about. And we logged all the percentages arriving.
25 kilowatts.
I am curious. Did you do any manual preconditioning on the way over? You did.
Yeah,
okay, interesting. But we are already noticing the benefits because you are way above what the Niro was doing.
Yeah. But we are not near 90 kilowatts, and it finished preconditioning. So
now it's down to 50.
Yeah.
So maybe it's right where the Niro was, actually.
Yeah. Well, this
So-
sucks.
So the Countryman was at 27%.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
keep in mind, all the same battery capacities.
Right.
That's really significantly less efficient. And now we're down to 42 kilowatts. Oh,
And
boy.
How did we do with the Volvo?
So the Volvo was at 37%,
Okay.
which isn't terrible.
Right.
And yeah, it was either 33 or 37. I think 37%. And that plugged in got full power, 140 kilowatts.
And you know what? That car was really efficient, and we drove that thing hard and had it in all-wheel drive probably 80% of the time.
Yeah, that thing probably got driven the hardest out of everything.
Yeah, it was fun.
And the final drive back up to the hub from Buc-ee's, doing the little charge thing. That was wildly, drastically different between the cars. That was super interesting. I'm glad we did that. It's not like, full scientific charging test, but you get all the cars in the same scenario, and man, big differences. Anyway, with that said, we are going to go park all the cars back up, get in the studio, and start arguing about which one's better.
So I'm in the Mini, and I absolutely love the interior. You can't sit in this car and not smile with the experiences and everything that it has. I love the circle screen. My only, little sidebar would probably be that don't enjoy with CarPlay. It doesn't really take up the whole screen. I feel like they could figure that out to where it implements better with the screen. Overall driving, I wouldn't say it's as fun as the Volvo, but it definitely has a little kick to it. Really, it's not like super fast. And yeah, I love the interior. The sound system is great, and I just feel like this is the most premium car that you're gonna get out of all four of these. And yeah, that's does it have rear vents? It has rear vents. So the only car that doesn't have rear vents is the Volvo. So that is a huge miss.
Initial impressions, right off the bat, feels nice. Feels like you're getting every bit of that money that you're spending on this car. I love the Google operating system. I love having my Google Maps on it. Like I said in earlier reviews, I am a Android guy. So having native Google Maps with battery arrival percentages is really, really nice. Driving assistants in this car, I think, are the best. I think this is the better of the two systems from the other cars. I think it's a little better than the Kona and the the Niro and the Curve and stuff like that. Definitely better than the Mini Cooper. I did not like the Mini Cooper. These seats in here are the most comfortable of all the seats that I've ridden in today. And I wanted to kind of come into this thing a little critical of this car almost. I don't like the styling personally. Maybe it's the yellow color. But other than that, the color wise, the interior of this car does feel very, very good. The seats are comfortable. They're a nice cloth, but they are very comfortable. They're not too narrow. These seats are definitely big guy approved. Out of all the seats I've sat in today, these take the cake as far as comfortableness and most importantly, just seating position's nice. Just everything just seems very premium in here. Like you really are getting your money's worth. So stuff that is confusing to me as a new user coming into this car. There is stuff that I find a little confusing. Like I have no earthly idea how to turn on the rear windshield wiper. Like that's fine. You know, like I said, I think with a little more time I could figure that out. Yeah, that's a little interesting. And last but not least, the stereo in this car. Stereo in this car is very good. It has a giant sound bar across the front, Harman Kardon stereo. This might rival the Kona as far as the stereo is concerned, but this is a very nice stereo in this car. It does have very good highs, very good lows, and it seems to project very well. It does have some weird 3D audio setting. I'm not sure where that came from, or maybe one of my colleagues turned it on and all that. I don't feel like digging through this menu to find another one. But yeah, the infotainment, the software is snappy. I like Google. Like I said, it feels like my phone, so very, very easy to manage that. The car menus, they're a bit buried and there's lots of options. But you know, I think with a little bit of time with the car, I think I can familiarize myself with them a bit more. One thing I do find a little weird on this car, the steering wheel doesn't seem very thick. It does feel premium, but it doesn't feel very thick. It feels a little thin when I'm gripping it. Like I can easily touch my fingers when wrapping them around that. And then once again, not having the center display does kind of suck. Just because I'm so used to having that, I prefer it. Looking over here to the right is fine, but it is at the top of the infotainment, how fast I'm going and things like that. But other than those light criticisms, I think this is a very good car. You know, it needs to be a little bit bigger for my use cases. You know, I have 2 kids. I don't think this would be a great kid hauler. The trunk in this is very small. I saw it earlier when we were looking at the cars at the hub. It was definitely a smaller trunk. But other than that, you know, if you're not putting a couple of car seats in here, I think this would be more than adequate as far as space is concerned. But the back seat is a bit snug when we sat in there, but I don't think people are buying this car because of the back seat size. I think they're buying it for performance. It is a rocket ship. It's very fast.
Driving the Niro. Really hard for me to wrap my head around how this is more expensive than the Kona. This is a significantly step down from the Kona. And maybe when the Niro gets its next generation software and refinements and stuff like that, it could be better. But let's start with the good. There's a lot to like with the Niro. First of all, let's ignore the MSRP for a second. This thing's $100 a month on a lease with $1,000 out of pocket, including taxes and fees for Colorado residents from Fort Collins Kia. At that number, hell yeah, this thing makes all the sense in the world. It's a free car. For $47,000 sticker price, no, seats are incredibly uncomfortable. The seating position is far too bad. It does have some good stuff. What was I going to say? Start with the good first. Head-up display, super nice. Glad this has it. It also has great regen with one-pedal driving. Very similar to Kona, but maybe actually even a little bit better pedal calibration and better brake calibration for sure. Actually, this feels a little bit more natural to drive from a pedal box standpoint than the Kona does. There's some cool... What else do I like about it? Well, I don't know. I think it looks pretty good from the outside. Like, it's unoffensive. It actually is a pretty good looking car. And it's got good lane centering that can work everywhere. Separate from adaptive cruise control. But then it's missing the blind spot camera thing that like the Kona offers. And then the bad. The bad is this software is trash. The sound system is livable, but it's certainly a step down from the others, especially the bass runs out of steam. The Kona was amazing, that sound system. That was amazing. Really good in that one. And in general, I think this is a really nice buy for $99 a month. There's not much for me to say other than the tech is just so far behind. It really needs the CCNC update and maybe even something a little bit better than that. But at least that at minimum to get there. The power is more than adequate. I think it's well behaved on the road. The wipers are quieter than the Kona, which I think is funny. The suspension's totally fine in the sense where it soaks up the bumps just okay. There's no sense of fun driving here. It's not a very enjoyable place to be. In fact, it probably makes my day worse to be in here. But if I'm just commuting A to B for $99 a month, what do I care? Yeah, so heated and cooled seats. Again, the Mini doesn't even offer cooled seats. There's a lot to like here for the right number, but there's not a lot to like for $47,000.
Well, we're almost done with our journey here, and the last car I drove was the Kona. And it's the car I'm most familiar with. And in a lot of ways, the Kona is obviously very similar to the Niro, only it's a newer generation. So I love the software better. I love the dash. I love the fact I can battery preconditioning with a push of a button. I think the Kona is a really comfortable car. And the other thing I like about it is that it's super efficient, just like the Niro. You know, if you're looking to get the most miles per kilowatt, it's hard to beat the Hyundai or the Niro, because they're only 200 horsepower. They just have front wheel drive and they work great. The stereo, I'm not such a big fan of. And this car is a limited, so it's got, you know, all the bells and whistles except for a heads-up display. If I were going to buy one, I probably wouldn't buy this level because I think it's too much money compared to an SEL, which gives me almost all the benefits, except for the fact this does have a heat pump. But I really like the Kona and the Niro. I think for the money, they're great cars, and I really like what Hyundai's done in terms of simplifying the dash. I like the fact it has real buttons. I'm not a fan of just the one screen. And this car, you know, anything you need to get to immediately, you have access to. So those are my final thoughts on the Hyundai Kona.
Welcome now to the studio inside the hub. This is the time where we essentially are going to announce the winner of today's drive. We had a wonderful drive today. I just want to say thank you to both of you and Zach, who couldn't join us in the studio. He had to get back to his kids, for taking the time to, you know, really do this drive. Normally we would use like Jordan and Timon and others. Everyone's gone. So thanks, Bob, for joining.
Well, I hope I did an adequate job. It was fun. Well, really enjoyed it.
It's great to get as many different experiences and impressions from different type of people. And I think we really did have like 4 distinctly different types of people reviewing these cars, which I think is really great.
Yep.
So I think it's important to announce the winner right now because we can go on and talk for a while. So let's just get that out of the way. So are we ready to announce it? It is the Volvo EX30, but it was only Bob's top pick. Bob was the only one who actually chose it with the most number of points. However, cumulatively, it was the one that I guess was on average the least offensive.
Yeah.
And then second place was the Countryman, very close, by the way. Mm-hmm. That was the real surprise of the event today. Was this is a car people aren't talking about and actually pretty great. And there's always nuance to all of this, so we'll get in there. And we knew the Niro and Kona going into this honestly weren't going to be that competitive, but I didn't know how different the Kona and Niro really were going to be. And no question, the Kona is a whole nother step up, bringing it into third place, handily against the Niro, which just is a generation behind. Wouldn't you agree, Bob?
That's right. I mean, I just, it's like the old Kona, very much so, with a little better dashboard. And that's why it's behind. You know, when they refresh it, it'll be just as good as the Kona, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think that car just needs its mid-cycle refresh. Unfortunately, it's also $5,000 more than the Kona that we tested.
Which is hard to believe.
Really hard to believe. I mean, the lease deals on all of these cars, especially the Niro, that's a free car.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to... We judged value in this off of MSRP, but when you look at the lease rates, especially here in Colorado, man, they're really good.
Kia knows what it's worth.
Yeah, it's $99 a month. So I just want to bring up some highlights. Zach isn't here right now, but I want to run through how we roughly scored these cars and how we chose what won. I created 10 categories. I don't know if we'll ever do it again this way or if we should just do it this way every time. But essentially, I went through what I tend to look for when I review a car, and it's ride comfort, noise, vibration, and harshness. So that is, can you spend all day cruising around in it? Is it comfortable? The sound system performance, does it bump? Does it sound great? Is it enjoyable to listen to music? The infotainment system, which is software, updates, anecdotal, ease of use type things. Driver assistance is hugely important in this day of age, so can it do great lane centering? Does it have FSD-like features, et cetera, et cetera? We went into the acceleration and handling. I feel like those might need to be separated perhaps in the future, but we just talked, sort of performance, if you will, as a category. I put observed charging performance. This is why we did the Buc-ee's stop, because this is not our full charging test. We'll get there. But our observed charging performance was very real world. Now, whenever we say real world, that means anything can happen. So everything is real world. That's why I hate real world testing, because real world just means non-repetitive testing and non-reproducible testing. So anyway, we put observed charging performance from our silly little test at Buc-ee's. Then we put perceived value based on MSRP, again, factoring in that $47,000 sticker, the $51,000 from the Countryman in there, exterior styling and interior comfort design, and then also, did it make your day better? Which is all of these are subjective, but that's a very subjective of, are you excited to get into it? Do you turn around and look at it when you get back, when you park the car and walk away? And so that's where we scored everything. Now, Zach had some really interesting results here, and we all did. I'm going to run through not every single category here, but Zach hated the Countryman.
Yeah.
What's up with that, Alyssa?
Zach is your everyday suburban dad. And he really wants comfort as well. He's not a skinny dude. And so I think the Countryman maybe just was a little bit too tight for him, because like the Niro and the Kona, their seats were definitely a lot wider.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The Countryman just was a little bit of a snug fit for him.
Which usually they always are.
Yeah,
and
BMW.
That was his first experience in a Mini too.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't like the smaller Minis.
And it's that's a German thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's a firm seat. They like a firm seat. Now, I love the Mini's seats. I think they rock.
Me too.
Really, really good seats. I love the little support behind your knees and all of that stuff. They, they just feel good to me when I sit in one of those. I don't even have to change much. It's just really well done.
Yeah, and that's why we have multiple different people doing these tests, because everyone's going to feel a little differently. I'm trying to see if there was anything other than that. He said the interior comfort, design, and materials were 1 out of 10. He hated all the fabric on the doors, which I loved.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really huge stark contrast. He agrees the Niro comes in last place, but Zach rated the Kona significantly higher than the EX30. I don't know how this came to be.
He loved it.
He loved it. We even called him afterwards. We're like, dude, a 10 out of 10 on styling for the Kona? What the heck? This is the ugliest car on the planet. And he loves it. He's like, dude, it looks amazing. It's so cool. He loves driving it. He's just a Hyundai guy.
He is.
That was his quote.
Yeah, he's an Ioniq 5 guy, and there's a lot of those things in that car that remind you of the Ioniq 5, including the seats, including the feel, the dash layout, everything else. I mean, so if you love your Ioniq 5, you're probably going to love the Kona.
Yeah, and he did give it a 2 out of 10 on charging, so he recognized how poor it...
Facts are facts.
Yeah, how poor it charged. But essentially, Zach came in with the Kona as the clear win. I think we all agree Niro was last place. That's an easy one.
Yep.
But I thought it was funny how, EX30 and was pretty high up there with Kona and Countryman right down low. Alyssa, let's go through your scores really quick. You scored the Countryman as first place.
I did.
And you scored the Niro as last place. We all, I think, did that.
Yep.
And then you and I are actually very similar in this chart. We'll get to my stuff.
Yeah.
But any standouts, anything here from the numbers that you want to quantify or talk about? You rated the EX30 a 10 out of 10 on styling.
Well, so within my ratings, I did it out of the categories of all the cars, not just every car I've ever driven.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately, the winner and loser would come out to be the same, regardless of your scale.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of base this off of, because there's just so many cars to choose from. I'm not like, I can't quantify them. I can't really just put them all in a bubble because, I don't know, we have so many cars. We're very fortunate. And everybody's like, oh, you don't drive all those cars. I'm like, yeah, I do. Everyone has its purpose. So each car has a different purpose for a different thing, and that should be the same for people who are buying the car. Everybody has a different use case for a car, and that's why, somebody like Zach loves the Kona, because it's probably the best family car, in my opinion.
Oh, interesting. The Kona used to be small. Now it's got a big back seat.
Yeah. I mean, I think for that side, I think because you can't choose the Niro.
Well, let's just go through your results here, your scores. So you gave exterior styling on the Volvo 10 out of 10. You also gave the interior comfort and design of the Countryman a 10.
Yeah. And so that 10 actually goes into does it make my day better? Because just getting in that car just makes you happy. Makes me happy, at least.
The Countryman.
It just all the different, I mean, I'm pretty ADD, so all the different colors and everything, it just little sparks in my brain, and so it gets my synapses going, and it just makes me a little happier. So
yeah, and you gave it a 10 out of 10 on making your day better. Like, you look forward to getting in there.
Again, I based this off of the 4 cars that were given, so that one in that category. I wasn't too consistent with everything. Like my charging performance, I gave them all a 3. Because they just all need to be better. Yeah,
but but these are still twice as fast as Niro and Kona in the cold.
They're still not fast enough.
Yeah.
Not at all. So.
But you also gave, let's talk infotainment systems for a second. And this, maybe we can just talk in general.
Yep.
You gave the Volvo the lowest score in the infotainment category. Meanwhile, it is the car that relies on its infotainment system the most.
Yeah, I hated it.
Really?
Yeah, low. Just something about, so I went from the EX30 into the Kona, and there's just something to be said about the easeability of being able to just change my mirrors. Because I'm the type of person that when I sit in a car, and if it's like an hour-long drive, my seating position changes, so I sometimes have to change my mirrors to reflect that. And you had to go like 3 menus. I stopped counting how many times to try and get to just the mirrors. And that should be something that's just there. When it comes to safety, and that's what blew my mind, because it's a Volvo. It should just be, everything should have been easy. They usually think of like the end user in terms of like a lot of like little cute little details, and I didn't see any of those kind of details within the car. And the infotainment was just too busy.
Yeah,
busy.
I actually kind of agree. Normally, I'm a big fan of infotainment systems, replacing buttons with screens. That's cool with me.
Yeah.
We have Rivians and Teslas, and we've driven Lucids a bunch, and that's sort of the mentality there.
Which those are fine, because right at the bottom, it still is kind of like a button. Like, it has all the normal buttons that your climate control, your music, it has all of that.
And Volvo did too. It had the bottom bar.
Yeah, but not as many.
And also not as good.
No.
Like, just to get to the performance all-wheel drive setting is many clicks away.
I didn't even, when I first, because I drove it before we drove it today, and Kyle's like, oh, well, did you get to it? I'm like, I think I pressed the right button, but I'm not 100% sure I did. I just pressed what button looked like it could be the performance upgrade, but it wasn't like, oh, you're going into sport mode. It was like, what was the wording? Do you remember the wording on it?
Performance all-wheel drive.
Yeah, and it was like a little toggle, which I was like, sure, let's see what that does. And it did open it up, but it was just not as clear.
Yeah, they have the first of all, the car's so Chinese in the sense where it's always dinging at you if you don't look at the stuff, look at the road. And so you got to turn that off every time. And there's no way in the US cars to turn it off. And so I feel like with the EX30, the hardware is all there. It needs a dramatic software retune to make things easier to use. And Bob, I want to get your impressions on this in a second. I would say when I reviewed the car a year ago, I said, look, Volvo, here are the things that kind of need to change. And they did a lot. It shows charging speed now in kilowatts. It used to not to. It is getting better. They're going to improve one pedal drive. They need to just rework the entire button layout of that car and also prioritize the features on the control menu, which is the main screen, the stuff that you actually need to use and adjust.
Yeah.
The fact that you got to go, 4 clicks away to put your headlights on and then also confirm a click on the wheel, so annoying.
Yeah.
How did you find the EX30, Bob?
First of all, I did like the screen in the sense it's really crisp and clear, and it's very Tesla-like.
Yeah.
And so when I looked at that car, I thought, okay, this is kind of a Tesla-like experience. That's what they're going after. But they didn't do it. There's just so many menus that you have to go through to get anywhere.
Right.
It's like a dream where you're trying to run in water. It just is very slow, and it's not necessarily intuitive. I mean, I'm glad Kyle showed me exactly where to get that to engage the all-wheel drive sport mode.
Yeah.
And regen's off in that mode. I don't get that at all. But I'm glad he did that, because I wouldn't have had enough time to figure that out, and that's what I do. I figure out these systems and how they work and explain it to people, and it wasn't intuitive, but it needs work. It really does.
It just for me, it was just a huge distraction to try and use the infotainment, especially not really spending that much time with it to begin with. I mean, if you learn it, you'll get used to it, and I think it would be okay, but overall, I just think it's just far too busy.
Yeah, I also want to commend Volvo on the other side that I do like how you can download apps in their infotainment. Their Spotify integration is maybe the best I've ever seen, because you can actually download Spotify songs in the Spotify app. So when you're out of cell coverage, they still played, which was really nice. Most other cars don't let you do that. Also, it does have Google Maps built in with good route planning, which I was pretty impressed with. And the thing is, it can get better over time. They just really need to. Since we're on the topic of infotainment, let's talk about the Countryman for a second, because Alyssa, you rated the Countryman a 6 out of 10, and I think we'd all agree that the robustness and the feature availability of the Countryman is significantly higher. You're taking all of the BMW i7 stuff and cramming it in a Mini. This is a brand that has developed their infotainment across the entire model range. Therefore, you do get the benefit of stability and robustness and feature count. However, I was particularly disappointed with 2 things in the Countryman infotainment, and I agree it's better than the Volvo, but I thought that the chipset wasn't powerful enough. It was very laggy, especially on startup.
Yep.
You turn it on and it just couldn't get the menus loaded up. And secondly, I thought it was incredibly difficult to use and to figure out where stuff is in that car.
Yep. And I think the other thing is they've got that quirky thing that the former version of the car had, where you're sliding across to get to your Apple CarPlay to something else. That system always seemed kind of bizarre to me. I'd rather see you just press a item and it would go directly to those, and to me that's a lot of wasted time and space that they could improve. I mean, the design is beautiful in terms of the circle. It's huge.
Love that. Yeah, it's
the color is just knocks your socks off.
Yeah, very vibrant.
I love all of the modes that you go into, because each one is clearly done, and they have very different artistic tastes in each one, which is kind of refreshing to see that. So there's an artist involved in the creation of that system, but it's, once again, there's a lot in there to figure out where it goes.
Yeah, I feel like that system actually works pretty well for the nerd side, probably like you and I, once we get used to it, because you can go so far in depth there. But you can also get yourself so lost. I think about, okay, if my grandma were to buy this car, or my mom, they would only be able to find 5% of the features that the car offers.
Yep.
Versus, I feel like with Tesla and Rivian, it's just so much of an easier experience to access what the car has to offer. So I like the system for me personally, but I really think they have a lot of work to do to make it easier for people to get into, and of course speed up the improvements. Let's talk Kona for a second, because that has the new Hyundai Motor Group CCNC system, which has now made its way into new Ioniq 5 and EV6. It has features such as route planning built in now, which is great, and it also has automatic and manual battery preconditioning, which is a great welcome addition here in Colorado. Really nice upgrade, wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. Bob, what was your impression of the Kona system? My impression was that's like kind of the bare minimum of acceptability, but it does work.
Yeah, and I once again, I think that system is designed for people who like buttons, and it's designed to be much simpler than it was. That's the thing, is it's so much better than what the old one was, right? I mean, they've simplified all the menus. It's easier to find things. It's more intuitive. But on the other hand, like today, my biggest disappointment was I wasted kilowatts preheating that battery when it was 45 degrees out, because I wanted to get to the charger and blow that Niro away.
Yeah.
No, it
made no difference.
It was a waste of energy, But for the most part, I find it very easy to teach that system to people.
Yeah.
They don't get overwhelmed with it. And the combination of buttons, and that is especially for people who are new to EVs or making this transition from ICE cars to EVs. It works nicely. Is it as slick as Rivian? No, I just drove a Rivian. I have to remind myself once in a while. I hopped in one 2 weeks ago. God, that's a good system.
They got it nailed. That's why, that's my daily driver. We also have Teslas. Yeah. So I get into the Hyundai stuff and I'm like, wow, this is crap. I hate it. But after experiencing the Countryman and the Volvo, which are really hard to actually get around, I'm kind of less annoyed about the Hyundai system.
Kind of like it.
I don't.
I enjoyed, so not that I'm a huge, but I think definitely the Kona has way too many buttons. But I like the fact, I put it into perspective of, if I'm going to rent one of these cars, I've never had any experience with any of them. I'm a new EV driver, whatever it might be. The Kona was definitely the easiest to navigate and to get to the things that I needed to do to start my drive. The EX30, I think I would have lost my mind sitting in a parking lot trying to figure that out, and probably many phone calls to you, Kyle, to try and figure out how to get my mirrors to work.
Well, here's the biggest giveaway. The EX30 came with like a 30-page PDF in my email on how to operate the car. No other press car has come with that before.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the guide. And the first thing is how to turn off the driver alerts. That's on page 1.
Which should be a hint to them that maybe that should be gone.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just don't put it in the car. I have to commend the Kona on a couple other things because... we'll talk about sound system in a second. Never mind. So just finishing up the infotainment, the Niro is old. It has the old system, smaller screens. And I had an issue with both the Niro and the Kona where I couldn't get a digital speedometer. And so it would show like a digital version of a typical mechanical speedometer, but the steering wheel was blocking the speed ranges in both cars. And so I couldn't figure out how fast I was going in either one the whole time. And I'm like, just give me a little digital speedo up there.
Well, I don't think you really have to worry about those two cars. They're pretty slow.
Plus short guys I'll test to have no problem with it, Kyle.
Okay. Yeah. But I think I also when I look at a wall clock with the arms, the mechanical ones, it's not very intuitive for me to figure out what time it is. I like digital clocks and digital speedometers.
Well, that's our generation. I mean, I think we were all taught how to read a clock, but I think by the time we reached like middle school, it was just all digital and they weren't, implementing reading clocks.
Yeah, like every time I look at a wall clock, I gotta like take a half a second, just be like, which one's where?
Shorthand, or is it the longhand? Which one is it?
and I still love the Vigalia gauges on the Fiat 124 coupe. So I switch over because Pat's the opposite. My twin brother Pat. Yeah, those you watch my channel know who he is. He loves the digital, and I like the sweeping thing.
Yeah. In general, I like a sweeping tack with a digital speedometer. I'm very
There you go. Well, that's not odd.
Yeah. So then let's talk sound system since we're in here as well. Can we all agree the Kona had the best sound system out of the bunch?
Yeah, I bumped.
It was amazing. Zach totally agreed. What do you think? You liked the EX30.
I did like that experience, and maybe because the weather was so bad when I was driving the X30 that the thing I focused on was the sound. And, I play a real variety of music on there just to try to, actually I play film scores because you get all kinds of classical music, all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
And I like that Harman Kardon that was in there,
It's very impressive considering it's just a sound bar with 2 tiny rear speakers in the doors and a subwoofer.
Yes.
It's really good.
We do got to mention that if you put those rear windows down, you lose a lot.
Yeah, if you put any of the windows down, the sound bar can't reverberate the sound off the glass.
So you can't enjoy your day and your music at the same time.
Yeah, I was pouring rain when I was driving it, so those windows were up. But it is amazing that the sound quality of Hyundai products are actually pretty darn good.
That Kona was the best out of the bunch from my perspective. I mean, I know you bumped pretty hard. I was playing.
I know. I was really shocked. I'm like, is this good that it's vibrant? I had to kind of think of like the musical background. But with me, is if it bothers my ears, I hate it. And that never bothered my ears. It gave me a little bit of the experience of the vibrations. And I was like, that's why I scored it the highest.
Yeah, the Countryman had an okay sound system as well, I thought, but it does feel a bit tight in my impression, in the sense where it just needs to loosen up a little bit. I need a little bit more bass, a little bit more airflow, and it just felt a little tinny to my liking, and that's very common for BMW and Mini Harman Kardon systems. They always have that character to it. The EX30 felt really nice to me, nice subwoofer. The Kona blew me away, and the Niro was just meh.
Yeah. And my experience is like when I listen to speakers, like a KEF speaker or a B&W British speakers, they're great with classical music. They are not good for rock and roll, that kind of thing. And I think that a lot depends on what kind of music you listen to, how those speakers handle it. But that's just me, and I don't hear so well anymore anyway. I'm 65.
So Bob, you scored the EX30 as your highest pick and the highest score in terms of numbers right here. Was there any, we haven't talked about driving performance yet.
Yeah, and that's it. It's I like it because it's over 400 horsepower. And so I look at that little package, that thing is over 400 horsepower, but yet that it's really efficient. I mean, I had that all-wheel drive pegged most of the time on the sport mode, and it's still a very efficient car. So to me, I marvel at that. I think that's a really good combination. And the other vehicle I like to drive is my Ford F-150 pickup, Lightning. And I have a Ioniq 5 and all kinds of other cars. But I always look at what car would I like to have. I got a pickup truck. It's a pickup truck. I use it for pickup truck stuff. But what car would I have opposite of that? And of all those cars that I had, I thought, you know what? That Volvo rocks.
It spoke to you from the beginning.
Yeah. And I like the looks of it. And, in the front seat, I know it's the smallest car, but in the front seat, I don't get that feeling. I thought it had a lot of room in it.
Agreed. My dad, who's 6'5", drove it around this past week, and he fit perfectly.
Yeah, and I got to sit behind him, so it made me inferior.
Well, I actually fit behind him. It's tight. I mean, really tight.
You were full man spread back there. I mean, there was no
and no rear air vents.
There is no rear air. That is just a deal breaker for me.
That's why Alyssa couldn't do the EX30. No rear vents.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was getting toasty back there too.
It gets hot in the warmth in the back.
Right. And then you're freezing in the front.
Yeah, because it's got to compensate with front air conditioning, so the front people are freezing.
Yeah, it's like the old Chevy Bolt, same thing.
Yeah, actually, the Volkswagen ID Buzz, the Euro spec, is that way.
Oh, okay.
Only the US ones get the rear vents. So yeah, Bob, on the performance, let's talk about that. So 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds on this Volvo. Yeah. It's crazy fast.
Yeah, it's an amazing car, amazing package. It really is, and the handling was not bad. I mean, it's soft.
Yes,
like they all are soft. I mean, they're not a Taycan,
right?
But overall, that would be a fun car for me to drive, and that's how I rate it. I mean, I drive that little Mini Cooper S that I have, not because it's the biggest car, not because it's the fanciest car. It's just fun to drive, and that's the feeling I got with that car. Much more so than the Countryman.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. I also think that we should commend Volvo on the sense that it's the second heaviest car here. It's 4,000 pounds. Yet it feels 1,000 pounds lighter than they say.
I agree.
Yeah, I thought it was the most fun to drive too. That was, definitely my top pick. And that's what kind of made it so hard to choose between that car and the Countryman. But then, the rear events just killed it for me. That stays in the back of my head.
But let's talk driving. So on the performance, when we were ripping the mountains or driving around wherever, allegedly ripping, I took the Mini up the hill first, and I drove the Mini when it got dropped off the other day briefly around town, and I was pretty disappointed in general with the seating position. The steering wheel is beautiful to look at, but terrible to hold. Actually, I thought the Kona had the best steering wheel out of all of them in terms of in the hand. That was the nicest wheel of any of them. And I was driving the Countryman around town, and I was taking some corners, and I'm like, this thing feels totally disconnected. Like it's complete guesswork as to how much steering I put in and what's going to happen. And it feels rubbery and mushy. And I'm like, man, Mini kind of lost it. I was like, this is not good. And I took it up, going up to Estes, up the pass, and we were behind some pretty fast-moving traffic, but still, we were behind traffic. And I was like, it's just getting worse and getting annoying, and things are floppy and squishy, and I have no idea what the car is doing. It's very hard to predict what's going to come from it. Once we blew past some cars, and I was really thrashing it, so I had full DSC off, go-kart mode on, and I was able to get some lift off oversteering corners.
Allegedly.
It actually started to wake back up and feel like a BMW should. And cornering brake control was starting to work, and it was ripping on the rear motor a little bit harder. And I was actually coming out of corners, not with opposite lock, but with neutral steer. And what it felt like to me was that the bushing settings were just so rubbery and so soft that you really had to use the weight to max out the bushings to where now you're getting not metal on metal, but there's no more compliance left in the suspension or chassis of the car. And then you could actually drive it pretty hard. So it's almost like you drive it at 5/10 and it's totally unpredictable and annoying and heavy and floppy. You drive it at 9/10 and it wakes up and it feels great. And I was thrashing it up the hill and it loved it. And I loved it.
And I love the previous generation Mini. I've said that before. And when I was driving the Countryman, I thought, I can't wait till they start producing the two-door S mode in England again, because then I'll get one of those.
Yeah.
Because it just... It can't be like a standard Mini S. I mean, it's way heavier. It's longer. It's all that stuff. Bigger battery, but it pales in comparison. Now my Mini only gets 80 miles of range on a good day.
True, yeah.
But and I'm sure the new S that's being built in China right now is going to be definitely heavier. But that was a problem for me, and that's the problem when you drive all of these cars. As Alyssa was saying, you compare it to other cars you've driven and drive maybe every day, and it's like, I couldn't buy one of those right now. I really couldn't.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. So the Countryman to me only worked when I was absolutely thrashing it, where the EX30 was almost a little different. The opposite from my perspective. The EX30 rocket ship off the line. I mean, Alyssa, allegedly we drag raced from a light. I got the jump on you by a lot, and then you just walked past me like I was standing still.
Yeah, you didn't give me a countdown, so that wasn't fair.
The countdown was the green light.
Well, I was looking at you. You should have had a countdown.
You still beat him though. So
I did.
That's all that counts.
I did.
Yeah. She actually even lifted a bit and then went back to full throttle and still beat me. I was in the Countryman, you're in the Volvo. And that Countryman is, almost 2 seconds, over 2 seconds slower, 0 to 60. And it's a big difference. So that Volvo to me felt really fun off the line. And as you mentioned, soft, but well controlled. Like you'd go into a corner, it would lean over nicely. It settled itself down. It was really enjoyable.
It's very easy to drive fast.
Absolutely. And the harder I pushed it, it's not a performance car. It tends to understeer. There wasn't so much enjoyment there, but I actually really loved the way that thing went. And it's the most fun to zip around town. You get in, hit drive, no start button, and you can wide open throttle out of there.
10 stars there.
Yeah, I hate start buttons.
Yeah.
Don't know And you're moving before your butt even hits the seat. It's great. Actually, in fact, in the Volvo, it's a weird thing that I think Volvo needs to kind of fix this. You can get in and get moving so fast that the power steering doesn't even have time to turn on. So you can get into drive an inch before the steering opens up, which is a little bit sketchy. So then clearly, in my opinion, the Countryman and the Volvo were the two sort of fun ones to drive. The Volvo more so, I think, for most people. What did we think of the Kona's driving? Because I was actually not too disappointed with the Kona's performance.
No, I liked it actually. And you've mentioned this a couple times, the controllability and predictability of what's going on. You hit it spot on with the Countryman. It's like you weren't sure what that's going to do. Now the Kona, has mushy brakes because it's a family car. I mean, really is what it is. It's not a sports sedan. But the brakes, you hit those and you wait a while and then the brakes kick in.
Yeah, it was a weird brake pedal tuning in that car where you hit the brakes and there's like almost nothing and then it's full ABS and you're like, ugh.
But overall, I thought driving it was really pretty predictable, and it can hustle right along with a 200 horsepower through the front wheel drive.
Yeah, I thought it was plenty quick. Yeah. I didn't need more. Zach was complaining on the uphill that it was a little slow for him, but you kept up with us on the Niro on the first stretch, and Zach was way the heck back there. Yeah. So he must have been in eco mode or something. I don't know. He still made it win, but he got out of it for the first time. I was like, dude, this thing's a dog.
Well, that's why they have sport mode.
So, and then the Niro just, I think we can all agree was the least engaging, but I thought had better pedal tuning than the Kona did. The Niro old school had good brakes and everything like that. What have we not talked about yet?
MSRP.
Yeah, we'll get there at the end, but let's talk charging performance really quick. So the EX30, none of these cars, first of all, charge well. Just they all charge kind of like crap. The fastest one is 28 minutes, 10 to 80, which is pretty slow. That's the EX30. That's the fastest charging. The Countryman is 2 minutes slower, 10 to 80 at 30 minutes. And then you're into the 40s for the Niro and the Kona. All pretty bad, admittedly. However, what exacerbates the problem of charging was the cold weather snap that we had today. We didn't plan it. We didn't know it was coming.
No.
It was 80 degrees when we left here. I had the sunroof open and then it was snowing.
Yeah.
And all of the batteries got really cold, especially in the Kona and Niro. And I think those cars being so efficient actually hurts them in the charging department because they're not producing as much waste heat. The batteries are under a little bit less stress. And they charged like ass, technical term, when we got to the DC charger. Even with preconditioning and without, both of those cars were doing between 40 and 60 kilowatts, which is way off their maximum. Not way off, but off their maximum performance. And just clearly was cold gating. And that was a little bit annoying, the charging performance.
Yeah, I would not road trip those cars. Those are, the first question I often ask people who are interested in electric cars is, are you going to road trip? Because the answer to the car that you suggest for them is largely dependent on that answer. And for a person who's just going to charge 95% of the time at home and take that occasional 180 mile round trip, these cars are perfect.
Yeah.
They are just the charging speed doesn't even matter. You plug it into the level 2 and away you go.
Yep.
But the Volvo I would consider, because it is pretty efficient, I'd consider taking that, and it's 150, 140. That's I could live with that.
Yeah, it actually beats e-tron on a road trip. I put it in the 10% challenge, and it's once you exhaust the initial range and you just start charger hopping, it matches Rivian on the nose that's and
impressive.
Beats e-tron. Yeah, it's not it's no Lucid, no Taycan, nothing like that, but it's pretty respectable actually, totally livable. The Countryman I think is going to do worse because it's so inefficient.
Right.
We have to really, the Countryman was the biggest car here and the heaviest car here, and we felt it in the efficiency. And the charging performance is slower than EX30. It is consistent. It's flat. BMW knows how to do thermal management. That's great. It's also the lowest voltage car here. And so that Countryman, I just think, is totally let down by the efficiency and that battery and the charging performance. And it's kind of a shame, in my opinion.
Yeah. They need to up their game in that department.
Totally.
they're no longer, they have more than an 80-mile range. They need to crank up their charging speed to match it. It's no longer just the old version of the car.
Yeah, especially when Geely just launched the Smart #5 for Europe and China, 400 kilowatt charging on the same size car as a Countryman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and it's a 100 kilowatt hour pack. So it's like, what are we doing here? Alyssa, you want to run through perceived value, price? Styling, design, that's all subjective. We put that in there. The Kona's the ugliest by far. Thankfully, Zach's not here to defend it.
He gave that a 10.
He loved it.
10 out of 10.
I think the Volvo is the best looking from the outside, and the Countryman has the best interior. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Bob?
I would agree with that.
Okay, yeah. Countryman interior is amazing.
I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. But I could go away with a lot of that felt all over the place. Not felt, but the fabric.
Oh, you're not in the fabric either?
I mean, I feel like I just see it getting dirty and nasty with the lifestyle that I live. And so that would become an ick. And not as easy to clean, I would say. A lot of perforations and holes and stuff like that. So that would get in the way, but it is really a beautiful interior. The seats, I just thought were gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. And massaging.
Yeah, but that massage is weak.
Yeah, it's like an ID4. It's like just using the lumbar.
I didn't know if it was on or off.
Yeah.
At some points, I was like, is this working? Compared to my e-tron, you can feel it's like little kitty pokes.
We should also say the Countryman was the most expensive car here and did not offer cooled seats in the one we tested.
Yep, that is true.
Yeah, and the Kona and Niro both had it.
Yep.
Price. So Countryman was the most expensive.
Yep.
Kona was the least expensive. Niro and EX30 almost matching, which seems crazy to me because the value, those cars are totally opposite ends of the spectrum. So I'm trying to think what I'm looking at this right here, perceived value based off MSRP. I thought they were all overpriced on MSRP. So I gave the EX30 a 4 only because you get the big power. I think that is that's the real redeeming factor of that 48 grand is 400 something horsepower. It rips. The Countryman doesn't have the power and it's 51 grand and you're getting a relatively crap range and crap charging. And it's just, great if you want to spend a lot of money on an around town car, but you can buy so many other things. Now on a lease, it makes a lot more sense. The Niro being $47,000 as tested for honestly a crap experience. I gave it a 1 out of 10.
Out of their minds.
Now at $99 a month, that's a 10 out of 10.
They know it.
They know it. Absolutely. No one buys these things at sticker, but that's how we're doing it. And then I thought the Kona was actually a better value because I thought it was a significantly better car than Niro and it was significantly cheaper. And I still think that should be a 39,000 car, maybe 40, not low 40s. It was 44, the one we had?
Yeah. And that, cause it was a top trim.
Yeah.
And if I were going to buy this, I wouldn't buy the top trim. I just wouldn't. I'd get a better value on that car.
Yeah.
And the only thing it's really lacking as far it's a comfortable car, it's a nice car, is the charging speed is not 800 volt architecture like it's big brother, the Ioniq 5 or the Ioniq 6.
Yeah, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though it's 400 volt, they could still juice it, you would think.
Yeah. And that's where you start thinking about both of those cars. If you're going to road trip it, I say spend the extra money and go buy an Ioniq or an EV6.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. If you're spending 40, just find an Ioniq 5 or EV6 at that point. But you're not spending 40 on these. You're leasing these things for under $200 a month all day long.
Right.
And that's the move. Maybe not a limited, but you're going to be in the low money.
It's going to be so cheap. Your insurance, and when you think about what costs the most in Colorado, the licensing and the insurance are going to cost you more than what you're paying for the lease for that car.
Absolutely. So I actually thought it was interesting how the EX30 won this, even though technically Bob had it as he was the only one from a point situation who thought it would win. Now, I have been going, it was really easy for me, and I think you, Alyssa, just because we talked about this, to determine the Niro is the loser here.
Oh, yeah.
Easy decision. The Kona, easy third place decision, I think, as well. First and second, I've been going back and forth on all day. And I'm going, I don't know which one I'd rather have or which one I'd rather recommend.
The recommending, that's the hardest.
Yeah, because coming into this, I was all day EX30. That's the car. been driving it around. It's so cool. Everyone's got to get one. That's the car of the people. And then I got in the Countryman. I'm like, wow, the features in this and the route planning and the overall vibe and the robustness of what it offers, and the little bit more space than the EX30 just makes it a so much more usable package. And then I drove it really hard, and I was like, man, if you do rip, it actually is pretty good when you're on the limit. And I was like, man, the Germans kind of know how to, and I know it's a British car, but the Germans really know how to kind of dial this all in. So I genuinely don't know what I would recommend more. I will say, coming out of this test, the Countryman's going to be much higher on my recommend list just in general when people are looking for a car. There's so many people who are buying Audi Q4 e-trons and ID4s and Arias and Mach-E's that don't need that much space and would be much better off with a much more fun car like this, I think.
Yeah.
And we have two friends who got it. Nick, who lives down by Colton, and also Lindsay at the office. They both bought Countrymans. They both love them.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the EX30, rocket ship, tech forward, beautiful styling. I like the Chineseness of it personally. I think that's kind of cool. And so, I think it deserves to win. And this is the one that people want to see win based off anything online. EX30 is the choice.
Yeah, and it's aerodynamic and it's efficient and it's fun to drive. But if I had two little kids or I had a bigger dog, it would start to slide me right over to the Countryman because it's a more practical car. It really is.
Absolutely. I think if you can fit into an EX30, you should do it.
Yeah.
If you can't, lifestyle wise, then you got to look at Countryman.
Yeah. If you have that Costco membership, I think you got to go Countryman.
So your choice is the Countryman, Alyssa.
For my lifestyle, yes, the Countryman would suit me best.
And for me, I genuinely still don't know which one I would choose if they're parked next to each other.
Oh, come on, you can choose. This isn't life or death. You're gonna be okay, whichever one you
I feel
choose.
like EX30, but I really want some software updates.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I already own an Ioniq 5 and I own a Ford F-150 Lightning, so I'm going Volvo. I really am, because for my lifestyle, that would make a lot of sense.
You should get one.
Yeah,
they got them right down at the dealer.
Well, you know what? There is a limit. I own 4 cars, and I always tell people I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't take illegal drugs, but I have a car problem. Not as bad as Kyle's, but I have a car problem. So, no, I will not be buying one.
I think he's going to have one.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be one in the driveway. With all that said, I think this was a really fun day. It was great to drive all 4 cars back to back from my perspective. Having such close sticker prices, it really goes to show the Koreans have to bring their all of them need to bring their prices down, but the Koreans really got to drop the sticker on these cars because they're just priced too high. Thankfully, no one's paying sticker for those cars. If you are, you're dumb. Lease them, get a huge discount. There's cash on the hood. There's money available.
MSRP is irrelevant these days. It really is. I mean, it's the only fair thing to judge cars because it's something that's fixed by the car company. But let's face it, no one, when a car isn't popular, that price, you could lease an ID4 for a penny. I mean, it was just so cheap because at the time, they didn't have the best reputation. The Niro, super cheap, right? So I think that the reality of it reflects the real value of those cars. It's not the MSRP. It's what people are really paying for it out the door.
Yeah, and I think just anecdotally from what I see online, the EX30s are expensive. They're like $600 a month on a lease. And you know what? The car's pretty cool. They're not moving at that number. They'll come down. They got to come down.
Yeah.
But, that car on a lease is the most expensive to lease, and it is probably the coolest car here, and I think it is the one I would choose. The Countryman, they do lease out okay. They're not nearly as cheap as Kona, and then Niro's even a step below Kona.
Yeah. Can you imagine if that Volvo didn't have a big tariff stuck on it?
Yeah, if they could get it to 35 grand, be amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's the real value of that car.
I agree. And I think all these cars are just very lucky that the Chinese market has not
come into the U.S. yet,
Well,
because they would just get wiped to the floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just absolutely. I don't even know where they would stand when it comes to the cars that the Chinese are making, like the Envo. Is that
Yeah,
the one?
Envo L60.
That one would just, I mean, that one there in China is, I think, 25,000. So even if it came here, it would still almost, I mean, depending on which day it is. We don't know what day the tariffs are.
Yeah.
But it still would be cheaper than these cars. And it's 10
And
times
you know,
better.
my people I work with all the time are just in a vacuum on that.
Mm-hmm.
They have never driven one of these type of cars.
Yeah.
They don't know what it's like. They don't know how good
Right.
cars
It can
are
be.
from other countries
Yep.
that they don't have access to. So it doesn't even enter their equation. Whereas, you know, people who drive these Chinese cars, they come back and they are just satisfied with anything that they're driving.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No, that's it. It's tainted us since we've been to China. We're just like, nothing's good over here anymore. And so yeah, we'll see if they wiggle their way into this market. It would push a lot of the automakers along, which is definitely needed once you see these cars and their technology. It's just
that's
Yeah, the
very
tech
much
in all these
lacking.
cars, they need competition here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I thank you all for joining us for this episode. This was really fun, totally unusual for us, by the way, but something I think we should do more of and develop maybe more of a process. I love comparison testing.
Yeah.
We have to say a huge thank you to Fort Collins Kia and Crossroads Hyundai for allowing us to borrow those vehicles. The Mini and the Volvo came from the automakers themselves, so thank you to them for sending us media cars to film with. This all came together last night as a last-minute idea, and it was super fun, and I hope we've helped people make some buying decisions here, because we did take it seriously. We did try to follow a format, and we did come out with a clear winner, which is the Volvo EX30. An awesome car that I think one of us is going to have to buy one. If you don't buy one, I'm going to have to buy one.
I will sometime. I will. Just
Right.
not next week.
no.
Allegedly.
Next month.
You can store it here if you want. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you all in another one again soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.